Hey everyone, and welcome to the fifth module in this Django course. So this module will be all about building some functionality to allow users to sign in and sign up to our app. Now, I don't want to waste any time on this intro. I'm looking forward to this one. I'll be following along with you every step of the way, so no need to worry. Let's jump straight into it. Okay, so my browser again is open up on GitHub. If you don't know how to access this repository, look in the description, and whilst you're there, drop me a like, add a comment, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell. It's all helpful. It helps me create content quicker and with better quality. So, and yeah, the comments are really important because I like that feedback. I like to be able to sort of talk to people that are watching these courses. Let me know what I'm doing right and what could do better. So go ahead and do that. So the repository Django course. So we've already gone through 4 modules. Where the app is starting to grow and evolve, but now we want to give users the ability to sign up and sign in. And to do that, we need to create a new app, and we need to extend the built-in user model and functionality that comes straight out of the box of Django. So this is GitHub. What we need to do is go into main and scroll down to module 5 and go into steps and then open up module 5MD. And that will render on your screen, on your second screen hopefully, the markdown that I've put together for each of the modules. As it gives you literally a handhold of a step-by-step guide of what we're doing. Now I won't be in GitHub, I'll be in Visual Studio Code because I'll be opening it up in the text editor here and just looking at a preview. So you'll be seeing on my screen exactly what you see on the other screen, right? Module 5, preview, close this down. This is what we're looking at. Okay, this is what's exactly the same as what is in GitHub. Close that down. I didn't actually touch on this at the end of module 4, but normally what I close off the modules and give you a rundown of what the directory setup should look like on your machine, but actually we didn't change anything in the last module. So if you followed along with module 3, then the configuration of your directory shouldn't be any different than what it is now. But you should have a cores app, so core app, a Django course, media static file steps, VE&V, which is a virtual environment. If you don't know what it is, look at module 1, you will need it. And then you've got some other bits and pieces here. Okay, so DB SQLite, get ignore, manage.py, readme file and requirements.txt file. Okay, and it just goes through all that. Okay, so go through that, make sure you are on the same page. And if you're not, pull down from Git module 5 and you'll be all up to speed and exactly where you need to be. CD into your root directory and fire up a virtual environment. I've already done that. I've got it in this one here, and actually I've got the server running as well, but you will need to do that. You should know how to do that by now. And let's go straight into it. So having user accounts on a website is massively useful, both for customer engagement and retention in terms of gathering data, which can be used for advertising purposes. Now, Django has a built-in tool that helps us to deal with the complexities of managing and authenticating users. In this module, we will be creating our own user profile model to capture user-specific information. We will start a new application to group our common logic surrounding our user. So remember when we were talking about applications in module 2, I believe, when we started our core app, which holds all the logic around a home page and kind of core pages, web pages. This app will hold all of the logic around our users. So user profile and bios and images and things like that. Okay, so before we start, we will need some packages. So we'll be using Django extensions. I love this package. It's really, really good. It brings with it a whole bunch of model abstracts. So abstract classes that we can use in our models to stop us from having to do, repeat ourselves, so dry. So make sure that we're not repeating ourselves over and over with things like slug fields, timestamps, is active fields, things like that. So straight out of the box, Django extensions is fantastic for things like that. And it also has something called run script, which allows us to run certain commands in the shell. Get it installed, really, really helpful. And also py country. So we'll be using that in our user profile. Going here, we have not got the V&V open in there. So let me close this. There we go. CLS, make sure we're at the top of the screen here. So now I've got the virtual environment installed or running, so in this terminal. So I can put pip install Django extensions py country, saying a lot of the requirements are already satisfied. So Django extensions, the most recent version requires what's it say? PY country 58.1 requirement already satisfied. So this PY country requires AJAX ref 3.5.2 or higher. We've already got that. That's why you're getting all of these requirement already satisfied, because the dependencies of those packages are already satisfied. Let's freeze them all into requirements.txt. Oh, copy. Let's make sure you're doing the right thing here. Oh, what are we doing? Copy. Oh, it's not working. Paste. Sorry, guys. What's going on here? Control C. There we go. And a bit of a mare. Right, so we're now frozen. That's a pip freeze. So we're now kind of put all of those requirements into here. Okay, requirements.txt. You can see we've now got extensions and we've got PY country. Okay. Good. Let's start a new app called users. We don't want to call it user because we're going to have some naming issues if you call it user. That creates a new directory called users with all of the gump that comes with a new app in Django. So there's a load of built-in stuff. We covered this in core in module 2, I believe. But the difference is in apps.py, again, now the name is called users, right? So in core apps, it's called core. Okay, so that's how we're referencing it in the settings and in the template tags a little bit later. Go back in the preview. Now need to add it into our installed apps. So this is what it currently looks like, that bit there. But we need to add users and Django extensions into. Sorry about that. There we go. We need to change the installed apps to look like this. So if we go into Django course, go into settings, change this. Yeah, that's it. You can see now that we've got core. That's one we added in module 2. We've got users and we've got Django extensions. Okay, so when installing Django extensions, you need to add it into installed apps. It's just in the docs. Whenever I'm looking at packages in this course, just make sure you always reference the docs. The links to the packages will be in the description below, and they normally have links to the documentation. So I'm just giving you the kind of the generic setup, but most of these packages have kind of bespoke setups depending on the project type and how your needs and wants, right? So yeah, these are kind of just basic setups. Models. So open up Django course, users, models.py, and write our first model. A model is a single definitive source of information about your data. It contains the essential fields and behaviors of the data you're storing. Generally, each model maps to a single database table. Okay, so models translate to tables in our database. So let's pick up all of this. There's a lot going on. Right, in VS Code, it doesn't give you the ability to copy, but in GitHub you will. So let me copy that. So like I said, in GitHub, go back here, you scroll down to the section we're currently in here, you'll be able to click that and it'll copy the whole piece of text or code. So copy and then go back into your text edit. I've just copied that there as well, but if you're going to users, go to models.py, Control A, Control V, there we have it, we've got it all. Click save. Okay, we won't need the terminal open for just a second, so I'll just make that a lot smaller so we can see a lot more on the screen. So we're importing settings. We're importing the built-in user model from Django. Now we've already gone through how to find that. You go into your V&V lib, site packages, Django, and you can kind of work out where things are, where I'm importing things from this, right? So contrib auth models, already looked at that. Django DB, which is this. Import models, which is this. Okay. Then you've got import py country, which we've just installed as a package. From operator, which is a Python package, we want item getter. Now, we've then got from Django extensions, import timestamp model and activator model. Now the timestamp model adds a created at, I believe it's called. So a created at field to each of your model that inherits from that abstract. So you don't need to add anything about created at or anything like that, which I always used to do. I just use this abstract and my models will always have a created at time date field. You've then got the activator model. The activator model will have will be activated, I believe, as a time date field. We'll have to look at the docs. And it also has is active, which is a Boolean. It says a 1 or a 0. So you can mark models or instances of that model in a database as active or inactive, depending on what your users are, what your needs are. Okay, so I always add those. I generally always add those to every single model I create because I always have that common logic across my applications. I have the ability to mark certain objects as inactive. That's really, really helpful. Right, this piece of code here, it's not massively essential. You don't necessarily need to have it in your app, but what I'm doing here is I'm creating a sorted list using PY country of the alpha codes for the country, so GB for Great Britain, so on and so forth. So this piece of code here is just one that I've used in the past, and I'm creating a tuple of tuples so that I can use it in my model as a choices list. So I can create a field in my model with choices. So I'll have a field called countries or country, and it'll be a pull down in the when it's rendered in the browser, and you'll be able to select United Kingdom or United States or Uganda, and it will then render into the database. It will save it as the alpha 2, I think it is. Yeah, country alpha 2, which is GB or whatever. Okay, so that's what I've got it. It's not massively essential, but look, you know, you've got it in your code and you can use it for your own projects. So it's creating this, right? So it's actually creating this. So it's United Kingdom, France, France. Saves it to a variable called countries that we'll be using in the model. So the model itself is called user profile. We're inheriting from an abstract called timestamp data and activate a model. And then lastly, and you will have to have this in here unless you create an abstract yourself, called models.model. And that is what, that's the class that a model must inherit from for this model class to be a definitive picture of what will be a database table. Okay, so that's why we're inheriting models.model. So again, I've got a doc string. So users.user model. Now this is the doc string that we use when we have auto docs in admin. So I always add it into my models. We have a meta class. So this is where you can, although this is called user profile, and Django will know that that is because it's got the capital U and capital P, it will know that it will be user profile or user profiles as plural. But you can, in the meta, you can stipulate what that should be. So I've got verbose name plural is user profiles. Okay, order. So when we render this into admin, or the order of this model always defaults to ID. Now you can have order created at, because we've got a created at field using timestamps, or you can order it as telephone number. It doesn't really matter, right? So that the important thing is the ordering field name has to be a field name that is in the model. Okay, then we've got, just trying to look at what's on the screen here. We've got some fields. Okay, so like I said in here, where is it? So we've got a model is a single definitive source of information about your data. It contains essential fields and behaviors of data. These fields are those essential fields. So we've already got, using this, we've got a created at field, we've got is active field, activated time date field as well. But these fields are ones that I want specifically in this user profile model. So we've got a user. Now this is a one-to-one field. The field is linked to the built-in user model. So one instance of a user will have a user profile. So we created an admin user, a super user in the last module. That user currently doesn't have a user profile, right? But how we want this to work in our app is that when that user is created, a user profile is also created for that user. So, and we link it to the user by this field, which is a one-to-one field. So you can only have one user profile. You can't have numerous, you can't have multiple, you can only have one. And we've then got onDelete, which is an attribute of the field itself, and we pass through models.cascade. What that means is when you, or if you were to delete a user from the database, it would subsequently delete the user profile for that user. Now you can have, there's other things called set. You got set default, you got set null, and you got different bits and pieces that you can pull through, but we have in Cascade. You don't need to know all of them, but you can see them in the doc. So in models, in here, so in database, in models, you can then look for all of these files and find out all of the different options you have for a one-to-one, a foreign key, or many-to-many fields. But we've got Cascade. We've then got a telephone, got address, town, county, postcode, country. They're all character fields or char fields. So you don't have to put the boss name, but on a character field, you do need a max length. Now, Django, when you run the command make migrations, if you do something wrong, it's quite intuitive. It will tell you where you've gone wrong. For instance, if you were to, I can't remember the order, if you had a many-to-many field and you had a blank equals null and a true and a null equals true, it will say actually the blank equals true. You might as well delete it. It's not needed, it's not required, delete it. Equally, if you were to create a char field without a max length, it will say, you created a char field, it needs a max length. You need to tell it how many characters are required in this char field. So like I say, it's nice and intuitive. We're then going ahead and we're saying that for each of these, that field can be null and it can be blank. Okay, so they're all of the telephone and address fields. You've then got a longitude and latitude. Again, not massively necessary, but I have them in a user profile because if I was to use, let's say, Google Maps or Google auto lookup of an address, then it brings forward a latitude, longitude and latitude that we can save to a database. Okay, so that's why I've got it in there. We've then got a country alpha2 method. It's a class method, right? So this is used to return a selected country's alpha2 representation. So England equals GB. So the country will be United Kingdom or United States, but the alpha2 will be GB, okay? And that's where you need, let's say if you're using the Google Maps, you might need GB instead of United Kingdom to do some search or lookups or filtering. So that's what this method is doing. So we've got if self country, we return using py country, we call it countries method, get method, and the name equals self country, and we return the alpha2. So the country is England or United Kingdom, and the alpha2 is GB. That's what we're trying to do there, nothing too fancy. And we have the property decorator, because this is now a property of the model, okay? Okay, we can access it as a property, but it's not a field in the database. It's important to know. Okay, full name. Okay, this is a class method. So this is a callable method that we can call against this class to get the full name of the user. So if self-user first name and last name, then what it does, it returns a capitalized first name and a capitalized last name. So for me, it would be Bobby Stearman. Because I've got a first name and last name, we did this in the last module. If it doesn't, then for instance, if this isn't met, so if it hasn't got a first name or a last name, then it does this. If it's got a username, pass through self username, okay? And then if it hasn't, then it was just pass through the username. That's not really needed. So you could delete that. In fact, that's not even needed. Anyway, that's beside the point. Let's keep it in there for now. And that's just logic that I've had previously, and I haven't cleansed it for this course, but don't worry about that. I've just added some logic to this method so that we can call a full name method when we're looking at the user profile in one of the views, for instance, or an API call, and we can return what would essentially be either the first and second name or last name, or an email. And then we've got the string representation, and this is calling self full name. So that's what will be displayed in the admin page, or this will be displayed as the string representation in the API call. Okay, so that's the model. Okay, so we've now got a user profile model. Happy days. So point 3 would be making migrations there. So now we want to migrate that to the a migrations file, and then we will migrate that migration file to the database. So we call Python. You don't need your virtual environment open for this, but it doesn't hurt. Okay, so we've now created a migration file in users. So we'll close V in users. We've got migrations. We've got the init file, and then we've got 0001 initial. So this is the initial migration of the user's application. Now, if we open it up, what's gone ahead and done is created all of this code here automatically. So you haven't had to do this. Now you can do it manually, but Django does it very, very well automatically. So it's imported a whole bunch of stuff, then it's created a migrations class. This is initial, so this is the very, very first one. So this is the base migration. Everything else will then be will inherit from this initial, and then so the third migration file will inherit from the second one, which will inherit from the first one. That's how it works. Because it says dependencies, migrations, swappable dependencies, settings, auth user model. Okay, because this is the dependency is the user model that we've got defined in here. Where is it? Where is it? Yeah, there we go. So the dependency of this user profile model is users. And then the operation itself is migrations create model. We're creating a model called user profile, and then it details all of the different fields. So we've got ID. We don't have that in the model itself and user profile, but because we are inheriting models.model, it knows to add an ID. And this is just a big auto field, which is, it's just a standard ID field. Now you can have a UUID field or what have you, but we're just using the big auto field. Created, Django extensions. Modified, Django extensions. This is what we've brought in as a third-party package. Status. Right, okay. So when I was talking about is active is actually a status. And it's an integer field, so it's either 1 or 0. 0 is inactive, 1 is active. The activation date, deactivate date. So these are all brought in from Django extensions. Now it's only when we get to this point is when we have the fields that we've manually added to the user profile. Okay. Then it's that options. So you've got the verbose name plural, you've got user profiles, and you've got ordering for ID. That's because that's all in a meta. We've created that from one command. Now what we can do now is migrate all of that code over to our database. And it's gone ahead and done that, okay? So it's applied, it's run the migrations users dot, sorry, one second. Okay, sorry about that. So we've just migrated the 0001 initial, this one here, to our database. So now we have access to a user profile in the user app. Now what we need to do is, so in the instructions, it's just going through everything I've just gone through. There we go, there we go. We just migrated. This is the log, which is what we've got here. So admin, you can now register the user profile to the admin page. Okay, so this is how we see the user profile in admin. So if I visit admin now, ask me to log in. Oh, the cookie's probably still active. Oh, hang on. We might not even have it running. No, we're not. Python. Run a server. Did you forget to activate? Oh, there we go. venv / scripts / activate .bat. Okay, and then run the server. There we go. Now we can go to admin and it'll ask me to sign in. Yeah, so we've got Bobby and password is that. And you can see we still haven't got the user profile or the user's app active in the admin page. And the way you do that is by adding this code into the user's admin page, which is here. So we're importing admin from Django. We're importing from .models, so from the directory we're already in, import models and import user profile. Now, we're creating a class called user profile admin. That can be called anything you like. There's no dramas there. You can call it whatever you want. But what is important is we're inheriting admin.model admin and then list display. You can list the fields that you want to display. We'll just have ID and user for now. You can add whatever you want in there. You saw all of the different fields that are available here, right? You can have any of those. Okay, so you've got, let's have created, just for giggles. You haven't got this in the code on GitHub, but there we go. But we're using a decorator called admin. Okay, so we've brought that in. user.register. So we're registering, that's the decorator we're using, and we're pulling the user profile. That's all you need to do to register. There's more than one way to register a module to admin. This is the way I like. And as we've saved it, if we update this now, it should bring in the users app and user profiles. You can see here we haven't actually got any. The reason we haven't got any is because we haven't got a signal in our code to. It wouldn't matter if we would have one actually, because we haven't created a user. If we were to create a new user, we don't have a signal to pick up to pick up when that user has been created and create a user profile. That's what we need to do. So we need to link them. The other way of doing it is to inherit from the abstract user and create and actually just extend a user model rather than creating a user profile. But that's not what we've done in this module. So we need a signal, but also we need a user profile for the user that we've already got. Okay, so we've got one here. You can do that in admin. Add a user, leave all this blank, select Bobby, click save. There we go, we've got one, which is where we want to be now. So now the checks and balances, our database is now where it should be. We've got a user, and that user has a user profile. If I was to delete that user, not only would it kick me out of admin, so you wouldn't see the work or the output, if you like, it would also delete the user profile because we've set it to cascade in the model. So, instructions, step by step. You will now be able to manage user profile entries in admin. We've already done that, right? No, you will notice that the super user account we create, I've already gone through that. So 5, this is the next point. Django includes a signal dispatcher, which helps decoupled applications get notified when actions occur elsewhere. So the the built-in user model in Django, when something occurs in that, we need a signal to let our user profile know that something's been created. That's built into Django. In a nutshell, signals allow certain senders to notify a set of receivers that some action has taken place. They're especially useful when many pieces of code may be interested in the same event. Let's go ahead and write some code that will create a user profile every user that signs up, including super users. Create a new file in users called signals.py. New file, signals.py. Okay, and we want to dump this code in there. Okay, so it's important a whole bunch of stuff. As we go through this course, I'm not going to go through every single one. If you want to know where we're importing it from, then just go into your virtual environment, find Django, and just find a specific class or the directory or the method that we're bringing in. Okay, you can see here we're brought in post save. So when something has been saved, post tense, when it's been saved, do something. We're bringing in the user, the built-in user model. We're bringing in the receiver. So this is what receives the signal. And then we're bringing in a user profile which is created. Okay, so this little chunk of code here is what we're using to create a user profile. So we use a receiver decorator. It takes in the signal, which is a post-save signal. So when a user is saved, signal is fired, and the receiver catches it, and the sender is user. So when the user creates, sends a signal, and we receive it. Then we have a little method here called create profile. You can call that whatever you want. It hasn't got to be create profile. It's just a function. Pass through sender, the instance. So this is the instance of the user. So the user instance itself, created, and then keyword arguments. Okay, that is what you need to pass through to this. That's just the convention that we need. So if created, so if the instance of user has been created, so it catches the signal. So the user throws the signal, the receiver catches it, and then we say, right, if that signal has all been bundled up by the user, if it's a created user, do something. And that's what we're doing here. So if created, we've got object created. And the reason we're doing that is tuple is because we're using the get or create method in the manager. So I've already looked at the get, filter, the last, the first in the manager that's built in. We're now looking to get or create. So it's either we get it or we create it. Pass through user. So what's happened here is a user's been created, we realize it's been created, and now we are trying to find that user in the database. If it can't find it, which it won't because we're creating it, it creates one, and it creates one with the user. So the user field we're passing through the instance, which is user. Hopefully that makes a lot of sense. So we'll save that. The signal needs to be registered. This is important. If you don't register it, it just won't work. Okay, so look, we'll pick up all of it, shall we? You need to go into the apps.py file. That's what it currently looks like, but you need a ready method. So def ready, pass through self, import user's signal. That would now be available when the app is running. Okay, so without it, it won't work. What's next? To test this functionality, sign into the built-in admin page and create a new user. Make sure you give the user staff and super user privileges, as this will become our new account. If it went well, there should be a new user profile entry. So this is why we're doing that. Okay, so this is our current main account, super user account. It's called Bobby, right? Add a user. We'll call this bobby@didcoding.com. You can have an email. Create, so save. Now it'll take us through to this, and we can add Bobby Stearman, bobby@didcoding.com. Make sure you've got staff and super user access. Okay, now we've got two. Okay, did it create a user profile? Yes, it did. Okay, so the signal was fired. The user profile signal received it, realized that it was a new user being created, and it's created a new user profile, and it's assigned the instance to user. Okay, everything else is blank, but that's exactly the correct logic that we want at this point. Okay, next step, that's it actually. No, that's it. So to bookend signals, go ahead and delete the original user profile. You'll be asked to re-sign in. So, okay, so let's delete the original user. So click that, actions, delete selected user, and it will delete me, okay, because I was signed in as Bobby. This will demonstrate that the cascade works in models.cascade for users. So we've only got one user, but did it delete the user profile? Yes, it did. So by deleting a user, it deleted its user profile because it's linked with models.cascade. Brilliant. That's the end of this module. If you liked it, drop me a like, add a comment, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell. But before I close it off, let's look at this. So this is what your directory should now look like, okay? Let's not look at that. Check it out on GitHub. That'll have a breakdown of what it's supposed to look like. It's supposed to look like this. You've now got a users directory, right? So a users folder in the Django course app. Within that, you've got migrations. You definitely have migrations because we've run migrations, and you will definitely have a signals file and models. Just make sure you're at the same point before moving on to module 6. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next module.